and go.
Hello, everyone, and either welcome back or welcome for the first time to Down to Hell. This is not Doug Bradley, and I might be. This is Steph, and I'm Doug, and bored. Now, 30 years ago, my guest this week made his movie debut, gloriously credited as the man with TV guide in Joe Dante's The Howling. A couple of years after that, he'd graduated to being, I don't know, ninth zombie from the right in Michael Jackson's Thriller. Both damn good ways to kick off a career, it would seem to me, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome this week our special guest, Mr. Mick Garris.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Steph. Great to be here. And it's 40 years ago that The Howling was.
Shit, my math. Oh my
You
God.
always say you're good
I just
at math.
did that on the Who. Quite right, it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to take 10 years away from you, but
Yeah, thank you. Well, and fortunately, it was not an acting career that was kicked off, for sure.
It's a nice place to begin, though. In the Howling.
Best.
One hell of a cast to be rubbing shoulders with.
Well, it was really fun, but I was doing specialized publicity for Avco Embassy at the time. And I'd met Joe and we'd become friendly, and he asked me and my ex-wife. So that scene in The Howling is actually me and my ex-wife. So there's an image that'll live forever.
Cool. I was wondering whether it was a friendship call or whether it was just a regular casting thing. I obviously
had it been a casting thing, I would not have ended up in the movie.
Come now. And then, I mean, I have to ask, and I'm sure people always wonder. Then getting to be in Michael Jackson's Thriller as one of the zombies.
Well, I was friends with John Landis at the time, and with Rick Baker, and so once again it was special friend casting, and I was able to tolerate the 3 hours of makeup and all that I'm sure you can identify with.
I can. So that was an awful lot of people getting put into makeup.
Most of them were makeup artists themselves.
Right.
You know, the dancers were put into makeups and the like, but what they called the close-up zombies that had the most detailed makeups were almost all Rick Baker, Steve Johnson, all these guys who were at the height of their abilities, and they all wanted to get in their own costumes. So it was really fun. My wife Cynthia and I are both zombies in that. So that's a much better cinematic pairing that will live forever. Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, was that a single day? Or did it stretch on?
I worked 1 day, Cynthia worked 3 days, and we're in it about the same length of time. So
Right.
What was the total filming days?
I think they filmed for about a week.
Wow. The full length video is like a short movie, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, the Thriller itself, I think, is like 15 minutes long, and then they put it out on a video with the making of Thriller, which was another 45 minutes long, and it became like the biggest home video release ever, and the first ever done by an acclaimed filmmaker.
Right. What was he was John Michael's choice?
Absolutely, yeah. Michael had seen An American Werewolf in London and tracked him down because he loved it, and so that's where that relationship began.
Fantastic. So at that point, you actually had this acting career lark worked out, which was basically to make friends with all the directors, and then wait to be invited along.
Yeah, that's the only way I would get in. No, there was no way I wanted to pursue a career as an actor. I mean, I'd been a rock and roll singer on stage and the like, and thought that was a lot of fun, but I'm way too easily embarrassed to be an actor.
But not to be a rock and roll singer on stage.
No, that was
That's completely different processes.
yeah,
Not worried about a live audience singing rock and roll.
No, because that was the part, you know, if you're acting and if you're a good actor, as you know better than anybody, you lay yourself bare and you are immune to being embarrassed by the most personal parts of your personality. And I'd much rather have someone do that in my stead, which is why I'm much happier as a writer and director than I would ever have been as an actor. Plus, I don't have actor looks. That's a big big detraction when it comes to being an actor.
Oh, there is no such thing. There is no such thing. I mean, there are lots of actors we could point to who prove this fact, I think.
Yeah, but they're good actors. I'm not in that camp.
Now, where does rock and roll come into your life? I mentioned we were chatting before we went live that I had listened to the episode of your podcast with Clive Barker, and in that he was talking about having lived for a portion of his early life close to Penny Lane, as I did
Right.
as well. And you mentioned that you had gone to Liverpool, as it were, on a pilgrimage because of the Beatles. But I wasn't clear from listening to you guys talking about it whether you were already in London on business and you took a side journey to go to Liverpool, or whether going to the home of the Beatles was the purpose of the trip.
Yeah, it was. I was not in the business anywhere near it yet, but I was in a band, and my girlfriend and I at the time took a trip to England just because of the thrill of going to England, and it was a meaningful pilgrimage to me because of the Beatles, and most of my favorite musical acts were British acts. But to actually go to Liverpool and to go to the Cavern Club and see these historic sites that were your playground growing up, but for me it was like going to Mecca. You know, anyone of a certain age who became a musician was a musician because of the Beatles. It would not have happened otherwise.
Really,
And
as
so,
simple as that.
yeah, yeah. You know, they changed the course of musical
Yeah,
history and pop culture history as well, much deeper than just music.
sure. Well,
In
I mean, and I was 7 turning 8 in 1962 when Love Me Do charted in the UK.
wow,
So I'm just becoming aware that this thing called pop music, as we knew it then, it was not rock music. It was pop, everything was pop music. The
yeah,
Beatles were a pop group. um,
yeah,
uh, just as I was becoming aware that this existed at all, just as the Beatles were about to define it, and my city was about to become the epicenter of it. So the Beatles was certainly the starting point for me. I was too young for Elvis, you know.
yes, me too.
But they were all the influences on the Beatles. Elvis, Little Richard, which you hear hugely in
Yeah,
McCartney's early performances. His rock persona is almost entirely an impersonation of Little Richard.
well, their Long Tall Sally is a direct tribute. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Gene Vincent, I think, as well, and Roy Orbison.
The difference being um, today, our pop culture touchstones are mostly film and television and games. But in the 60s and even into the 70s, pop music was what channeled the direction of popular culture, much more so than today. There are so many people who have one hit today and you never hear from them again. But
Yeah,
if you hit with more than one hit, you know, you became a cultural phenomenon. I mean, the Beatles changed that completely. It brought young people's attention. You know, kids went to the movies, they watched TV and all that, but suddenly the whole pop culture scene was dominated by the Beatles. They galvanized the world in ways that I can't imagine any other musical act ever doing again. You know, the world has changed so much that music still has its place and its cultural influence, but they led the cultural influence of an entire generation, a couple of generations.
Without question. Even though I think I'm right in saying there were bands like, I think particularly the Animals, who were ahead
Yeah.
of them in terms of the British invasion. They had
Yeah,
already
62, I think, was
opened the
House of the
States.
Rising Sun. Yeah.
Yeah, which was this impossible thing, the House of the Rising Sun, because it was 5 minutes long, and that was an impossible thing to comprehend at the time, that you could put out a single that would be anywhere near that length. But
And
the
do you
Beatles,
remember how long Hey Jude was?
oh,
It was
Hey Jude is more like 7 minutes, I think, isn't it?
7 minutes and 11 seconds.
7 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
On a single, on a 45. That was
Yes.
unheard of.
Yes, and I remember there was a DJ in the UK called Kenny Everett, and I remember he played it for the first time. And this, this was like gathering in the church for the religious revelation, when the
Yeah.
Beatles single was played for the first time, and he played it all, and it ended, and he didn't say anything, and then he said, "I think there's only one thing to do after that," and he just put the needle back on at the beginning of the record, which
Wow.
again at that time on the BBC was, you didn't do that kind of thing. DJs didn't have that kind of independent power, but he
Wow.
didn't care. But the thing with
Did
the
you listen to
Beatles,
did you listen to pirate radio in your youth?
yes, well, you kind of had to, because when I was a kid, there was the BBC and nothing else, and the BBC was the home service, which was, the serious, proper, the news channel. Here is the news. Um, when everybody still, this was by orders of Lord Reith when he set up the BBC, even though nobody could see them, he insisted that all the announcers in the broadcast wore suits and white shirts and black bow ties to
Oh my
broadcast.
God.
So there was the home service, the light program, which played popular music, but very little of it pop music as you and I would understand. And the third program, because that was after the home service and the light program, it was the third program, so they called it the third program, and that was the classical music station. And those were the only 3 radio stations were available on
Wow.
mainstream in the UK. So the pirate radios were, they were ships that anchored themselves just outside coastal waters. So they were just in international waters. So they were not breaking any UK laws, and they broadcast from there to the mainland. So in Liverpool, we had Radio Caroline, which was anchored just off the Isle of Man in the Irish Sea.
Well,
which
I
broadcast-
love Richard Curtis's movie Pirate Radio.
Yes,
I just
yes.
think it's brilliant. It's such a good film and
Yes.
captures so much of that exciting time that we didn't have here. You know, it was all top 40 and it was available everywhere.
DJs trying to play records in, while the boat's pitching in a force 3 gale or something. And there was a thing called Radio Luxembourg that was on Longway, which you could hear in the evening. But it did that thing which I kind of miss, where
The in and out,
it would be very
fading.
clear and do this,
Just-
and then it would come back in again for a little bit, and then it would fade and then appear again. And they played a much wider range.
Well, how thrilling to be listening to the forbidden fruit of the time.
And it was the transistor under the pillow. It really was.
Yeah.
But the Beatles, they were the ground floor, and they traveled through the 60s, and they changed constantly through the 60s, and we all journeyed with them and never questioned. of it, you know. Um,
It was an amazing decade that climaxed just as the change of decade took place in 1970.
right. Uh, where do you mark Altamont as
Oh,
the
'69.
moment the
Yeah,
dream died?
yeah, it was. There was so much great stuff that happened after Altamont that, the Gimme Shelter documentary is a great chronicle of what happened there.
The
And
Maelstrom's movie. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's such a good movie, but there was still a lot of brilliance to come during the course of the '70s. There really the birth of progressive rock, which was something I was particularly into, happened in '69, 1970,
Sure.
and it only lived in the '70s and died after that. And my
I
band was very much
I hugely recommend to everyone a multi-part documentary on Apple TV Plus, which I just watched, called 1971, the year music changed, the year that changed music forever.
wow. I don't know that one. I'll have to check it out.
It's on Apple TV Plus. It's well worth checking out. Covers everything, every branch of music that was emerging at that point.
Cool.
But good stuff. So, at what point did rock and roll give way to movies in your mind and in your any sense of
Well,
ambition you may or may not have had as the
well,
70s moved
pretty
on?
much. I started writing short stories and things when I was 12 years old. And then I really started to get into listening to music, writing about music, interviewing musicians like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and the like in my teen years.
Wow.
But then I was a singer in a band called Horse Feathers, and it was an all original progressive rock band, which, there's no market for that. But we did it anyway. We opened for the Kinks and Foghat and different
Get out of here.
bands.
Wow.
So it was a really fun time. But once we broke up after about 7 or 8 years, the whole idea of writing movies had already taken hold, and I'd started dabbling in first learning about movies, starting to write about movies and interview filmmakers and the like, and trying my hand at writing screenplays. And once the band fell apart, I had no interest in another band or doing a solo project or anything. I was much more interested in creating what my passion evolved into movies and television, particularly movies. And so that happened, once we hit the next decade, 1980. The band broke up in '78, and I was trying to figure my way around. I was working for Tower Records as a night manager in Westwood.
Cool.
And working in record stores, writing for magazines and stuff, and then I managed to.
Magazines principally at the
What's
time
that?
you were writing, the magazines you were writing for, was that principally
Uh,
music magazines?
yeah, I wrote for something called Zoo World. The San Diego Door was the underground newspaper that I wrote about music, and so did Cameron Crowe, who later went on to become a great screenwriter and director. His Almost Famous is about that time in San Diego, and then beyond that when he moved from there. And that first third of that movie is almost exactly my life at that time too. We were both teenagers doing that. And then I actually started to get paid as a publicist to do specialized publicity at Avco Embassy for The Fog and The Howling. Carpenter and Cronenberg and Dante were doing movies there at that time. And because of my journalism in the genre edge of filmmaking, I had that connection. The studios didn't know how to reach that audience. And so suddenly I found myself in a job doing that and learning a lot more about movies and hiring myself to do the making of documentaries on these films.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
it was quite a metamorphosis from one pop cultural land to another. Yeah.
Now, was it coincidental that they were asking you to do work related to horror movies, or were you already bitten by the horror bug?
Yeah. I'd been a horror fan since I was a kid. The first movie I remember seeing on TV was Son of Kong. But I specifically went to these companies and said, look, you've got these movies. I have this knowledge. Maybe I can be useful to you. And so it started with Avco Embassy. And when the head of Avco Embassy left to run Universal, he brought me along because he brought along David Cronenberg and John Carpenter. And, they did Videodrome and The Thing and doing genre films. John Landis doing An American Werewolf. 81 was that. 82 for E.T. So I became involved at those two studios before I actually decided to make a go of it, trying to be a writer.
Wonderful. So kind of very much right place, right time.
Yes. Timing and luck have a lot to do with it.
But do you think also it's a reflection of that at that point studios and executives were much more inclined and likely, to give a young kid like you, fresh out of a rock and roll band, when you just say, "Let me do this," that they were prepared to say, "Okay, do it." And if you were good at what you do, you get to keep on doing.
Well, yeah, I think
Do you think
they
that
were
was a reflection of the times?
I think they were a little more open at that, and I didn't cost anything, and I didn't cost much in certainly in comparison to what other studio people were earning in the publicity department. But my first job was answering phones for the original Star Wars at Star Wars Corporation, and a guy named Charlie Lippincott kind of created the genre marketing. He took Star Wars to Comic-Con before it ever came out. None of the studio people had heard of Comic-Con. They didn't know anything about it. And these science fiction conventions then, there weren't really any horror conventions yet. Fangoria had not started doing theirs yet. But horror movies and science fiction movies and fantasy movies, nobody knew how to get to those publications, those viewers, the potential viewers that they would have, the customers who would come and see their movies. So I learned how to do that under Charlie Lippincott. And then when I went to Avco Embassy after I did Star Wars, and learned a little bit about how to do that, I was helpful in reaching the genre audience that Avco Embassy had no idea how to reach, and then went to Universal where it was an even bigger job, and people who again didn't know how to reach that special audience. And Gooble Gobble, one of us, I was one of the freaks who was there. So.
That's cool. I mean, and I ask it partly because I always have in that just jumping to Hellraiser for a moment, that Clive with his producer Chris Figg, they had a deal in place with Virgin in the United Kingdom, who then backed out of it because they felt that this horror movie based on sadomasochistic sexuality didn't quite fit with their family image. So they decided to think again on that. So Clive and Chris took themselves to LA, and I think I'm right in saying that New World was their first pitch meeting. And New World said, "We like it," and effectively said, "We like it. Here's the check. Go and make your money, your movie." I can't imagine these days. I mean, Clive really did not know his arse from his elbow when it came to a movie set. There's famously the story that he arrived on set on day one on Hellraiser, who's in charge here, and there was a lot of nervous coughing and foot shuffling, and Selwyn Roberts, the AD, said, "You are," and I can't imagine that now a studio would take a risk on a first-time director who, had not worked his way up on movie crews at all and had never helmed a movie. I think they'd be much more inclined, would they not, to say, "Okay, we like the movie, go away and write the script." we like the script, we'll take it, but you're not directing it.
Well, the good news was that it was for New World Pictures, and Roger Corman has a long history of giving talented young first-time directors an opportunity. Clive had written the script, and New World, there's never a lot of money put into a New World production, particularly. That was 88, wasn't it?
No, earlier than that. We shot it in
86?
86. It was released in
86,
87.
okay. Yeah, okay, so 86. Roger Corman knew that someone who could write a script like that could direct a movie like that, and
Wow.
he would give him a chance. And fortunately, even if Clive didn't know the tools and rules of cinema, he did a damn good job and
Oh, yes.
learned quickly. You would know better than anybody what that was like. And I'd love to hear what it was like on that first day of shooting when because I
tried to
know
take
you
a-
and Clive were mates before then.
He tried to take a book out of the library, didn't he? How to direct a movie.
Well, it is another great apocryphal story, and as far as I'm aware, I don't really have these conversations with Clive, but I believe it is true that there was a book in Crouch End Library in North London, place you'll be familiar with because it features in a Stephen King short story. In fact, Crouch End.
Yeah.
And Clive haunted Crouch End Public Library. And there was a book that he had taken out a couple of times just out of interest in the past called How to Direct a Movie. So knowing that he was about to direct a movie, he thought he'd better go and get this book out again. But when he went to get it out, on this occasion, it was out on loan. So he didn't get to gen up on how to direct a movie before he went to direct a movie. The thing I remember, and the thing I always say about Hellraiser, is Robin Vigeon, who was Clive's director of photography.
Yeah, beautiful DP.
It would have been very, very easy for a DP, to see Clive coming from a long way off and think, okay, well, I've got this kid in my back pocket. He doesn't know what he's doing, and I can take an end run around him all day long. The two things I remember, just from overhearing while I'm standing on my marks on set, was that early on the conversations were Clive saying, I want it to look like this. I want it to look like this, and as like as not being Clive, he'd be referencing some obscure Renaissance master, or a Bosch painting, Bruegel or something like that, I want it to look like this. I want it to look like this. And Robin would hear him and he'd say, okay, we can do that. But if we're going to do that, we have to do this, and we have to do this, and we have to do this. And if we do those things, then it's going to take a lot of time, and you don't have a lot of time. And if we do this and this, then it gets more complicated to do that later on. Those conversations were going on. But then I know there was a point at which Robin took Clive aside and taught him lenses. Because then I remember the conversations being, Robin, can we put this light on it, and can we put a 35 mil or 50 mil on it, whatever? Because then I remember hearing Robin say, "Oh my God, why did I ever teach him? Now he not only knows what he wants, he knows how to get it, and I can't lie to him anymore."
Frankenstein has arisen.
Exactly. Yes. The Sorcerer's Apprentice had taken over. But Robin met Clive's vision head on and matched it, and that's is one of the main reasons why Hellraiser looks so damn good, apart from anything else.
Yeah, well, it's a big revelatory moment when you realize how the lens choice emotionally affects the shots, the scenes that you're making. The use of lighting, the use of long and wide lenses, and how they can be utilized to emphasize the emotional content of a scene. And Clive learned that very quickly. A lot of people never really learn that. And it's, the technical, back in the golden years of filmmaking, a director of photography got that name because he really did direct most of the shots, most of the visual aspects. And the director primarily would direct the actors. And it was very much, a lot of film directors came from theater. But people like Alfred Hitchcock changed how filmmaking was done. Hitchcock had such a visual command of the tools of cinema that suddenly it became the director's job to guide that part as much as it was the director of photography's job. And it's a real revelation when you learn the impact that different lens choices can make.
And what's that learning curve for you? Because that process is pretty fast for you as well, I think, isn't it? Because you move on from Man with TV Guide in The Howling in 81, and then your stint as a zombie in Thriller. But then you make your directorial debut with Critters 2, and that's not too long thereafter, is it? Am I?
Yeah, that was. It was 88, but my actual directing debut, not as a feature film, I was a writer on Amazing Stories. The first guy to ever hire me to write a screenplay was Steven Spielberg. And so he had read something that I'd written. I had interviewed him on the set of The Goonies for the making of The Goonies. Steph, that shirt is so appropriate. And so
thought goes into these things, folks. Doesn't happen just by accident. But
while they were making The Goonies and I was interviewing Steven in Astoria, Oregon, back in Hollywood, his readers were reading a script that I had written that my agent had gotten to them. So by the time he got back home, he read this reader's report that ended in the words, "Hire this man." And I became the first screenwriter hired to write an episode of Amazing Stories.
Nice.
Then I wrote it in 3 days. They asked me to do another one right away. Halfway into writing the second one, they asked me to go on staff and be story editor for a TV series when I was brand new at it. And then the second season, I was able to, Stephen asked me to direct an episode. And then, during the first season, after the first season, I was recruited by Disney. They wanted to put me under contract as a screenwriter because I'd been knighted by King Stephen. And so they offered me to write and direct a Disney Sunday movie, a 1-hour TV movie. And so that was Fuzz Bucket, which was a story I'd pitched to Stephen that he passed on. And it's my first professional directing job, and shows.
I'm right, because you don't mess around with the minnows, do you? You go from Dante to Landis to to Spielberg.
But I learned every step of the way. I can look at Fuzz Bucket and see how every single shot, every single performance, everything could have been much better if I knew more. And
huge learning curves all over the place for you at this point. You must have been waking up at 3:00 every morning.
Well, I thought I knew what I was doing on Fuzz Bucket, and then you look at it and go, I didn't really know what I was doing. But by the time I got the opportunity to direct an episode of Amazing Stories, I paid a lot more attention about what a director's job was. When I was doing Fuzz Bucket, my first AD was sick, and I basically did everything he was supposed to do, thinking that was part of the director's job. Wow. And so creatively, it is rather uninspired. I thought it was, and I wrote it inspired, but I didn't know how to use color, how to use lenses, how to use camera movement, how to really stage a scene. And then when Stephen asked me to direct an episode of Amazing Stories, he said, I want you to storyboard the whole thing, just so I get an idea of what your vision is. And really, he wanted to know if I knew what I was doing. And I did my homework. I really put a lot of work into sitting down with my illustrator and guiding those illustrations, and was very specific in every one of those frames. And then my greatest film school was sitting down with Spielberg for 2 hours, going over my storyboards, of which he was very supportive and he really loved them. And so I think, well, afterwards, he told me he saw Fuzzbucket after I'd been hired to do the Amazing Stories episode. And as embarrassing as it is to admit it to you, he said, you know, Mick, if I'd seen Fuzzbucket first, I probably wouldn't have asked you to direct one.
Oops.
So, ouch, but
Yes, but
good
uh,
for
yeah,
good for him. You know, that
yeah,
helped me a lot more than saying, "Nice job, Mick," and then,
yeah.
you know,
Okay. So it was just
encouraging.
saying, "You're doing okay, but."
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't hire you on the basis of this, but he hired me on the basis of my work as a writer, and then saw the work that I put into visualizing that script that Rocco Bannon wrote from my story. And you know, I have a letter on the wall here in my office about what a good job he thought I did and what a career I have in store. And it was incredibly encouraging and emotional when I showed it to him at the Amblin screening room. And, you know, that kind of really, things took off after that.
and the being able to visualize, the having the vision, the being able to see what it is you want to do is ultimately more important than the technical nuts and bolts,
Yeah,
isn't
you
it?
can learn
They matter
those.
too, but the nuts and bolts without the vision is boring.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're all tools from different tool chests, but
Hmm.
they matter a lot. And you have to trust the people who are in charge of those departments. But the more you know about each of those departments, the better a filmmaker you can be. You know, my father trained as an artist and was never able to make a living doing that. And I inherited some of his drawing talent, and visualizing was something that was very helpful in that regard. But I turned my attention to writing instead of drawing. From the age of 12, I kind of moved entirely into writing instead. But then once I started to get my screenplays produced, um, being able to be on the set, being able to watch Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg and Bob Zemeckis directing on the Amazing Stories
Mm.
sets was just a huge, huge film school, but nothing more than sitting down with Steven for 2 hours over the storyboards. That
Going
was
over the
film
story.
school in 2 hours. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you, because of that, you still rely heavily on storyboarding now?
Not at all.
Or
Not at
no,
all.
not really. No.
Well, the more you learn about those tools, the less you need that. I
Hmm.
use storyboards when there are specific things you need to share, like stunts, like action sequences, and like visual effects sequences. But I always shot list the entire week's work over the weekend, but I often don't look at the shot list. I've shot it in my head once. And as you know, things change a lot when you get on the set. An actor has an idea, a director of photography has a light bulb go off. You have an idea to enhance or change something at the last minute. And
Hmm.
you don't want to be slavish to the drawings that you were making. And there's not as much reason to storyboard something that doesn't involve complication. And,
Right.
you know,
So allow the accidents to happen, in other words.
yeah, yeah, and encourage them if they make it better. Now, what
Mm.
about you, Doug? Do you think about directing?
No.
That
Uh,
was easy.
well, I mean, it's not entirely true. I think, of course, the answer is yes. I think probably every actor does, particularly if you might think you're working with a director who you might feel maybe doesn't know what they're doing. You might be, standing around at a loose end, as you tend to be, thinking, I could do this. Um, but but it's never been anything that's been kind of you know a burning desire to want to take control of this thing. Um, I've always been content to be, you know, perhaps if I get the acting thing, to a point where I feel I know what I'm doing with that, then maybe I might feel I could
You
move
just need
on.
a little more time. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we all do, but that, that point never quite arrives.
What
Um,
about writing?
I do bits and pieces of that. I mean, I wrote a book, shameless plug, Behind the Mask of the Horror Actor, which I've kept that thing in print now for 25 years, which I'm,
Fantastic.
very proud of.
Yeah.
And people say, why haven't you written more? And I kind of say, but I don't know what to write next.
Reason.
And that's the difference, I think, between I classify myself as an actor who wrote a book, which is not to be confused with a writer. If you are a writer, you have a burning ambition to do that. I wrote one screenplay, which was an adaptation of The Three Impostors by Arthur Machen, which is a fantasy / horror novel, dear to my heart for a long time. Clive's a huge fan as well of that, I know. And that's sat in a drawer doing nothing for a long time now.
Have you ever taken it out?
I think I sent it to Clive, and I sent a copy to Pete Atkins, who said, this is very good.
But no urge to take it to your agent and say, how about sending this out to producers and seeing what we can do?
No, I didn't. Surely should have done, but no, I don't know why.
There's still time. Do you play an instrument?
I can. I'm not a musician. I can. Well, we were having this conversation. Was it last week on here or somewhere else?
So.
If you put me down in front of a piano, and tell me to play something, apart from chopsticks, I can't. But if you put sheet music down in front of me, I can play.
Oh.
But I can't do it by ear at all. It doesn't happen. And I can strum a few chords on the guitar, and I learnt the flute at school for a bit, so bits and pieces here and there. Taught myself to play the trumpet for one of Clive's plays.
Oh, wow.
One tune, which used to make the dog howl when I was rehearsing at home. But no, I mean, I listen to music all the time, but no, I'm not a musician. And when it comes to singing, as Mark Twain said, those people who have heard me sing tell me I don't. So that kind of leaves me with acting, as something that maybe I can do.
Well, no small achievement there.
You were then responsible in '92. You have your first teaming of many with Stephen King.
Yeah.
In Sleepwalkers, which unusually King wrote as an original screenplay. It's not an adaptation of one of his stories. And you, Mr. Garris, were responsible for putting together the kind of small town America that we all want to live in.
Yeah.
A small town America in which Stephen King is the cemetery keeper. The forensic technicians are Clive Barker and Toby Hooper. The lab technicians are John Landis and Joe Dante. And the cops are Ron Perlman and Mark Hamill.
Yes. That's one of the fun things about making movies. King, I'd never really met King before that. I saw him at a signing once before I was ever a filmmaker. But I'd never met him until doing Sleepwalkers. And until that day, he did his cameo because he lived on the East Coast. We were in LA. And all of my conversations with him were by telephone. But he came out to do that. Toby Hooper was a longtime friend of mine. as were John Landis and Joe Dante. And I had known Mark Hamill from working at Star Wars back in '78. And Perlman was somebody who came in through the casting process.
Right.
But all these other people were personal relationships. And I knew that one scene in particular with Steve, Clive, and Toby. You can cut out everything that happens in the scene between the three of them and cut right into the sheriff and his conversation at the car going on afterwards and never miss a thing. But you do miss what happened when I saw it on opening night in at the Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. The missing of people going, hey, that's Stephen King. Hey, that's Clive Barker. Hey, that's Toby. That feeling of being in on something that only the special people can appreciate was really great. And it's a real gift to moviegoers to be able to feel like there's something special for them. This was done for them. It's a gift. And it's so much fun to feel like you're part of the process. And that was what the attempt is. Plus, it's really fun to have people you know on the set. You know that. You know, if you've worked with a director several times or other actors, that you know you're going to have a good time when they're there. And directors rarely work together, and they're all hams. You ask any director to play a part in a movie, they will say yes before you finish the question. But
Right. And
it was
always
just-
the danger that they'll start telling you how you should be lining up this shot.
yeah, it's really a temptation that is difficult to resist when your job is asking for creative moves. When it's somebody else's job, it's just you got to stay there and keep your damn mouth shut. You know?
And I
Speaking
noticed.
of gifts,
Oh,
trying to get that segue in.
okay. Here we go.
Do we want to
Business
give
end.
something away, David, to all the
Yeah.
people that are hanging out listening?
David here, aka Sweet Angel Baby, aka
Sweet Angel Baby
Archangel.
David.
I mean, we got a lot of nicknames here, but
Yeah.
since we just got raided by Space Zebra, or excuse me, DWP, within the last 10 minutes, so I feel like we should do a comic giveaway.
Yeah.
So this little doodad here on the screen is going to be personalized and signed, and the next person to give away 10 subs will be the winner of this prize.
Is that the comic?
Yep, the comic book right there.
You're putting up a picture and I'm holding it up. It's actually the New Dimension Comics. It's a comic shop in Pittsburgh here, and they did this special cover
Ooh,
back in 2011, I think, just
Glary.
for sort of in connection with Doug's appearance at the shop.
cool.
So that's the first.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the number one.
Number.
It's from Boom Comics.
And that'll come personalized to you and signed by me as you request if you ask.
Lots of
The
flayed.
angels. Ooh,
Ooh, sorry,
The
flayed
angels in the
bodies and
background.
stabbed eyes.
speaking of stabbed eyes.
Oh, we almost
Yes.
took Doug out.
We did.
Yes.
This one will come with complete with
Oh, look at
Doug's
that.
eyeball.
We have a winner.
Doug's eyeball juice in the
Doug's
corner,
DNA
right
for
up
an
here.
additional subs.
You can
I already
clone
know I'm
that.
gonna butcher this name. Salmon neck one. Sam green eggs and ham one. I don't know. All right, well, winner, you win.
salmon.
Well done, winner.
Yeah, even
You're a winner.
hit this link here in the chat for the Instagram and send me a DM with your Twitch name, and we will get that all squared away for you.
And make sure you let them know what dedication, if any, you want personalization, because they'll then send that all on to me to take care of. Congratulations, whoever you
Yay.
are.
Yay, congrats.
Do we want to do another one now, or do we want to?
Go ahead, do another one while we're doing it.
Yeah, let's do a Actually,
How about
this one's
this
gonna be. Do you have one lined up?
Oh, what were you thinking?
I was thinking about giving away a bag of coffee from Dead Sled.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, do that.
So this coffee right here on the screen is from Dead Sled. They are a vendor on Horror Hub, and what we are going to do for that, this one's easy. 2 subs. The next person to give 2 subs is going to win that bag of coffee.
Nice.
Can I do that?
Not coffee. An overabundance of coffee.
I think you're allowed to
do.
participate.
I do
Coffee
have a lot
snob.
of coffee.
All
Is
right.
it Salmon Denick again?
Oh, how can you pronounce all these first go and I just can't figure it out? I stutter my way through the whole name.
I'm sure I'm not
How's it
saying it
spelled?
right either.
And you're the archangel. Yeah.
Salmon-Denick.
Salmon Denick.
Sam, okay.
Salmon. Salmon Denick.
The name.
No, Salmon Denick. Salmon Denick. You may see a stranger.
So, Mick, your band's name was Horse Feathers.
That's right.
And before we went on, you mentioned Groucho. I take it you're a Marx Brothers fan or a Groucho fan?
Yeah, well, there were a number of reasons for that name, but yeah, everybody in the band was a huge fan of Horse Feathers, and it's such an odd expression that means bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
That anytime you would mention that name in the 70s, if you knew of us, you'd think of us. So, and even though most prog rock is very serious and dire, we were comical. We had a sense of humor about our music. So Horse Feathers, even though it sounded more like a country rock band, really reflected more of our sense of humor than any stirrups and kicks.
Yes, cool.
I like the idea of comic prog rock. There wasn't that much of it. It took itself very seriously.
Well, a lot of it is
especially as
unintentionally
the 70s
fun. I think prog rock.
were your influences like Zappa and the Mothers, or
Zappa and Gentle Giant and,
Right.
Premiata Fornaria Marconi, but also the Bonzo Dog Band. We finally, last year, we took a bunch of our best recordings from when we were together in the 70s, and we added new vocals, and we rebalanced everything and new instrumentation. And we put out our first album last year, and it's on all of the services, Horse Feathers Symphony for a Million Mice. And at horsefeathersmusic.com, you can get a signed CD if you want to. So, but it's out there on Spotify and Apple Music and all of those places.
Cool.
I shall be going to check.
Yes, and send me an address, and I'll get one to you guys, Steph. And,
Loved the Bonzos. Loved the Bonzos. There was a TV program. It was on what was the children's tea time slot. We had children's television in the UK from around 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and there was a program on called "Do Not Adjust Your Set."
yes.
And it was a forerunner of Python.
Right.
It was David Jason who went on to do Only Fools and Horses, successful BBC sitcoms of all time. But it was half of the Python team.
Yeah, it was Monty Python and Michael Palin were also a part of that.
It was.
John Cleese.
It was no. There was a BBC radio program that was called "I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again," and that was John Cleese and Graham Chapman.
Ah, okay.
And "Do Not Adjust Your Set" was Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, and Terry. And when they came together to form Python, David Jason desperately wanted to be part of the Python team, but he couldn't write. See, I'd have got kicked out. It was absolutely part of their brief. They had to be able to perform and write. But the house band was the Bonzo Dog Doodah.
Wow.
Weirdly kind of out of place in this children's television slot.
Yeah, no kidding.
They played live in the studio every week, and I was, as spellbound by them as was by the rest of the program.
Wow, what a treat! And Neil Innes went on to do all the songs for Monty Python with Eric Idle. Yeah.
And the Ruttles,
Oh, I love the Ruddles so much.
yes, wonderful stuff.
And the movie is great. All you need is cash.
All
Yeah.
you need is cash. Yes.
That.
You've not seen?
No.
Oh, it's genius.
It seems to have a reputation because Zappa's satire of Sergeant Pepper was called "We're Only."
in it for the money. Yeah. Great stuff.
Do you want to do some questions?
Are there questions
Sure.
coming?
Well, I
coming
will put a
through?
call out for questions.
I had one more mischievous question about Sleepwalkers. I noticed that Clive is overdubbed. Could he not nail the accent?
He actually wasn't. That's
I told
actually
you that's his voice.
That's not
that
him.
was him. Yeah.
you.
Oh, it's
No.
definitely him.
You
And
can tell he was trying to sort of do an American.
yeah, subdue his British accent, but he's still got a little bit of a British accent. But that was definitely him, and that's
Oh well, you fooled
that's
me.
the live recording.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, he doesn't sound like.
Go ask the sheriff. Yeah, that was
Yeah. Go ask the sheriff. Yeah. Cool. Are there questions rolling through on the chat?
Well, put that out there to watching. Can keep
nah. Nobody's
Chit-
interested.
chit-chatting until
Okay.
we start.
Well,
Oh, that's a good
okay,
one. That's a
go
great
ahead.
one. Favorite album art.
Favorite album art? Well,
Yeah.
you know, who's the guy who did all the Yes album covers? He did. What was
is
it?
it Roger Dean? Dean.
Yes, Roger Dean was amazing. He
Yeah.
also did the Octopus album cover for Gentle Giant.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Tales of
The-
Topographic Oceans, all the Yes things.
Those islands floating in the sky.
Yeah, just beautiful stuff. He was an original back in the days before everything was just Photoshop covers.
Someone says "Bat Out of Hell."
Oh,
Bat Out of
Album cover.
Hell.
It's
Yeah,
a
there
great
you
album
go.
cover.
Yeah, well,
I
me-
loved, and I have on the wall up here. It's very early hypnosis for Pink Floyd's Gumma Gumma, which was
yes.
the album that rocked my world in 1969, where there's the repeating image.
Yeah.
Going on
That's
in
when
the-
it was Sid Barrett too. Yeah.
when they all move around one.
Yeah.
And the Court of the Crimson King Crimson's.
I love that. Yeah.
piece
But
of art.
Umagomo was when Sid Barrett was still in charge of Pink Floyd.
He'd gone by Amagama. I think Saucerful of Secrets was the last album he had anything to do with.
Okay, I stand corrected.
He was gone by then, and David Gilmour. Time, 4 members of the band wrote their own material on. And although they did on the first album, there are live covers of live versions of "Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun" and so forth, which is
Oh yeah.
Sid's lyrics, but he'd gone by then.
You know
in
the
so
movie.
many ways.
You know the movie's Still Crazy. It's sort of that. It's about a band in the 70s who get back together in the 90s, and there's a character very much like Sid Barrett in that. It's just a wonderful movie.
It's sad, I think, because I think he clearly had psychological and mental problems
Yeah.
initially, and I think on top of that, large amounts of mind-altering drugs probably aren't a good idea, and it is a shame. And that extraordinary story of them recording "Shine On You Crazy," which is long after Sid had gone, and it's a song about Sid, and they're in the studio and they turn around. Sid is standing in the console by the mixing desk,
Wow.
and nobody had invited him, and nobody knew why he was there. let alone how he'd managed to appear
Wow.
in the middle of them recording a song about him.
Amazing.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Most memorable production that you've worked on?
There's a lot to choose from, and they're all memorable for various reasons. But just for the diversity and the amazing opportunity of working with all of these great directors on Masters of Horror, not only getting to do my own stuff my own way without any interference, but to be the enabler to allow John Carpenter and Toby Hooper and all of these, Ernest Dickerson and Bill Malone, all these people to really, Takashi Miike, to make the movies they want to make without any creative interference whatsoever. That was momentous for me.
Well, you've segued me faultlessly onto the next thing I was going to ask you about, which is Masters of Horror, which jumps us on. And I wanted to ask you because I love an apocryphal story.
Yes.
And I love them even more if they're true. Now, this is per wiki, so hey, it must be true. That in 2002, you arrange an informal dinner at an unknown location somewhere in Sherman Oaks. And I'm offering edited highlights here, folks, but if this is true, then gathered around the table are John Carpenter, Don Coscarelli, Joe Dante, Guillermo del Toro, Stuart Gordon, Toby Hooper, John Landis, and others, with Mick at the head of the table.
Wes Craven, yeah.
And that at some point, there was a birthday party going on at the next table, and that at
This
some
is
point,
100% true.
Guillermo leant across to the person whose birthday it was and said, "The Masters of Horror wish you a happy birthday."
It's absolutely 100% true, except he stood up instead of leaning over. He stood up and said with great brio, "The Masters of Horror wish you a happy birthday."
Fantastic. And the name was born, and the name stuck.
Yeah.
Because then more dinners take place, and with Dario Argento and Eli Roth and Wes Craven and David Cronenberg, Zombie, and Robert Rodriguez, Kaufman. I'm only wondering why Orson. It's an extraordinary achievement, Mick. It's an extraordinary achievement. I mean, not only to get all these people sitting around a dinner table at the same time, because I don't know about directors, but trying to get actors to be in the same place at the same time.
It's like herding cats.
It is herding cats. You not only get all these people together and float the idea, and they get excited by the idea, you make the damn thing happen.
Follow
and you
through.
helmed the whole thing. Was it 26 episodes?
Yeah, we did 2 seasons of 13 episodes. And, I have to keep pinching myself to realize that that was true as well. But like we talked about earlier, doing cameos, directors never work together. So the fact that we all work within the same genre, doing the same job in our own individual ways, it was really hard. It took me a week to be able to organize that first dinner where 12 of us showed up. And then the next one I tried to arrange, it took me an hour on the phone. Everybody had such a good time. Yeah. And it grew every time. And I started getting requests like, "Can I come too?" And it's like,
why haven't I been invited?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think our peak was about 35 horror directors in the room together.
At once? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You must have had the entire restaurant by then.
Well, we had a separate room at the smokehouse in Burbank where we did the last one.
And have these now become like working dinners? You were now getting into serious planning for what was going on, or was it just
Not at all. It was never anything but social.
Horse feathers.
Yeah. No, it was entirely social. It was never intended to be the basis for a series. But when we were talking about our frustrations and not having control of our own destinies, I came up with a format that everybody seemed to be excited about. And once we pitched it to 3 different places, all 3 places said, "Where do we sign?" And Anchor Bay was the first one in the room that said, "How much and when can we start?" And I've never experienced that before or since.
Wow.
Is there any interest in doing another season?
I'd rather do another show, the
Altogether?
show Clive and I are creating. There were a couple of producers I would rather not have involved that forced themselves into the project that it was not the happiest marriage. So if
Is
I
this
do
because
another
they
anthology,
want to insert themselves into the argument once it's become successful, but wouldn't have taken the chance on it at the get-go?
well,
So
they were people in the management business, and a lot of managers assign themselves as producers on their clients' projects. Sometimes they just stay out of the way and take a check, and other times they can be intrusive. So, it was just we saw things differently, and I don't want to have that relationship again. But that's why we did Nightmare Cinema the way we did. It's a similar philosophy, but made under different auspices. The show that Clive and I will do will be something very similar in its philosophy, but with different people involved.
Are you able to say any more about that project with Clive? I know it's not you're just at pitch stage at the moment, I think, aren't you? But
It's just at pitch stage, but I will say that
won't.
I will say it is 10 original stories written directly for this. Clive is back in a big way. He's written 2 new novels, a book of poetry. These 10 stories, screen stories. Clive was out of the scene, as you know, for several years because of his coma and health problems that resulted after that. But he seems so strong and so full of imagination and output, and it makes me really happy to be talking to him now, and he's back in a big way.
Yeah, well, which is great. And when I was seeing him again on the convention circuit,
Great.
Not for the last year, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that it's what's fantastic with Masters of Horror 2 is that almost everybody who's there at that original dinner, unfortunately not Guillermo who gave you the overall title, but almost everybody gets to direct an episode. So it's not like it was as these things so often tend to be, it's a good idea at the start that doesn't quite happen as you imagined it, but it seems like it came together exactly as you were imagining it at that first dinner.
And yet, well, we never really planned on it. During that first dinner, it was entirely just to get together. People who have, it's like a group of dentists get together for dinner. It may not talk about teeth, but you have similar jobs and interests. And we got together. It was social. It was only after about 6 months or a year of having these that the idea came to the fore. And it was not, the dinners weren't created to try and create a format for a TV series. That just came out of our socializing together.
Right. Okay. And is there a framework going forward for Theatre of Blood, the project with Clive, or is that's dependent on
if it's what we hope it will? If it's what we hope it will be an hour-long weekly series of. Although it's an anthology, there will be linkage from the Clive Barker universe, if you will, something that you're quite familiar with.
Everything is interlinked, and everything gets recycled.
Yes.
In Clive's imaginative world, sure, yeah. Now, all of this is coming together in a biography.
Isn't that weird?
That's a thing, having someone writing a biography of you. And before
It's
you're dead yet.
I know. Does it mean my at least my career is over now?
It's like a Lifetime Achievement Award, isn't it?
Yes, I've gotten a few of those too, and it's like, oh no, that means my lifetime is at an end. So
Yes,
thank-
I'm very
No more
superstitious about
achievements.
that sort of thing.
Yes.
It's like building a statue to someone before they die.
yeah, as much as I appreciate them, there is weird irony to it. But yeah, Abby Bernstein is someone I've known for 40 years, and she is a terrific journalist. She's also a good screenwriter. Um, and she came to me several times with the idea of a biography of me. And I just kept saying, who wants to read about me? You know, the people I work with are much more worthy of your attention. You know, Clive and King and Spielberg and Guillermo and all these other people. Yes, they get lots of biographies, but I'm Zelig. I'm the little guy in the back of the out of focus guy in the back of the picture with all the people who matter. So I never imagined, but finally she said, look, I've got a publisher who's really excited to do it and is ready to go. So can we do this? And I gave her my blessing. And, I still, even though it's coming out in a week, I still find it very difficult to believe that somebody put all that time and energy into writing a book about me.
So was that lots and lots of interviews, or did you just turn over the whole archive of the tour and let her
No, it was
with it?
it was a lot of interviews. It was a lot of interviews. Each chapter is about one of the projects in the course of my career. The early chapters, obviously, before I had a career, about early touchstones in my life. But yeah, so she did a really good job of putting it together, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I just don't know what the market is for a book about me.
Well, and I think it's a significant part of the role that you've played, in that you've been in many ways the great collaborator. And in an industry that has far too many dominant egos rolling around in it, you seem to be a glorious exception to that in ways.
Well, thank you.
I think, I mean, Masters of Horror is a collaborative process, and you don't collaborate once with Stephen King. You collaborate several times with Stephen King, which means, they want to keep coming back and collaborating. This isn't the first time that you've collaborated with Clive, and Clive is not one of the world's natural collaborators.
Yeah. We work together really well. We've known each other not as long as you guys have known each other, but for a substantial period of time. And, we wrote a pilot together way back when he first came to the States, when I met him. And I adapted a couple of his stories for Masters of Horror, and we wrote The Mummy together, which never got made. And I wrote the script for In the Flesh that I was going to direct for Warner Brothers, which never got made. And now, hopefully...
Was that the Mummy script that, didn't have any mummies in it?
Well, it had a mummy. It had a mummy, but it was through Clive's eyes. So it was very sexually complex and very twisted in ways that even when I was writing it, I said, Universal is never going to make this movie, but who cares?
Yes, I think that's a lot of why he has such a love-hate relationship. And I think Nightbreed burned him.
Yeah.
I think the reason why there's such a big gap between Nightbreed and Lord of Illusion is, he's very aware, and I think he touched on this in your podcast, but when he's painting, when he's writing, there's nothing between him and his brain and his fingertips. There's nobody leaning over his shoulder saying, we can't afford that, or you can't put that on screen, or that'll never play in Idaho, or wherever. No offense to anybody in Idaho, but you know what I mean. All those interfering executive voices don't exist.
Well, if we make theater of
But
if we make theater of blood, it will be without interference, the way Masters of Horror was made without interference. So we'll see what happens. You know, I'm excited about it. Whatever happens, but I nothing would be more exciting than to collaborate with Clive on something that gets a green light.
Do you
Absolutely.
think I've never seen it, but the Karate Kid I guess sequel that premiered on Netflix, not Netflix, YouTube, I think.
Oh,
Was it
Cobra
YouTube?
Kai?
Yeah, that I think was really unexpected. For everyone to see something like that happen, a show on YouTube blowing up like that. Do you think taking a different route?
As long as we can have the budget to do it fairly. You know, we're talking to various people, the streamers too. I don't
Yeah.
know about YouTube. They are playing with a safer, wider audience. I think
Well, that's
something.
what I was wondering. Like, do you think taking a different route, you'll find less interference?
It depends. We're going in a lot of different directions.
Right.
And you know, YouTube at this point is not on the list.
Right.
But I think they're
Well, that's
trying.
sort of the first thing that came to mind, but
Yeah.
things
But
being
there's
what they are
Netflix,
now.
there's Amazon, there's Shudder,
Right,
there's
right.
HBO, there's Showtime. There's so many places.
Right.
HBO Max, and yeah.
Yeah. So
But-
we'll see.
So you and Clive have it built into the equation in your heads at this point that you either get to do it as per your vision without interference. It's not happening,
Right. Exactly.
and that's a position.
It's not
which
worth
you not back down.
Yeah, it's not worth it. I mean, there are certainly compromises we'd be willing to make, but not too many.
Right.
Okay. Are there any other questions rolling up for Mick? We've taken up a good chunk
Yeah,
of
we're
your
gonna
day, Mick.
let you run away.
So, unless there were any burning questions that
There
people
were
had for
some,
you.
but I find it very difficult to keep up with the chat. Somebody did ask, what was the go-to dinner selection?
Oh,
What did you eat?
Yes. What
was-
were you eating at the Masters?
Everybody got to choose what they wanted, and I'm a vegan, so I would always get the vegetable plate as a vegan. But
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
What did you have? for dinner?
Stuart Gordon always got a thick, rare steak.
Nice.
I
That
can
would be
tell
nice.
you that. Yeah, but there was always a variety.
And didn't sit next to you, presumably.
No. It would have been fine.
Someone is saying, "Thank you for Batteries Not Included."
Ah, that's
They
nice.
absolutely adored that movie. I did too. I watched that all the time.
Thank you.
HBO, it was on all the time, and I think I watched it every single time it was on. So
Thank you.
Did you see it? Jessica Tandy and Hume
Y-
Cronin,
yes,
and
yes.
so good, so good.
They were so
Um,
wonderful.
Yes, it was originally an Amazing Stories episode. Is that right?
Yeah, Stephen
Okay.
had written an outline for a story for Amazing Stories, and then he offered me a choice to take one of two stories he'd written for Amazing Stories to turn it into a feature. And one of them was called Ghost Kid, which later became Ghost Dad with Bill Cosby. And the other was Batteries Not Included, and I made the right choice.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Yes.
Very good. How many projects have been shelved that you wish would see the light of day? Probably countless.
More than fingers.
Yeah. Right. Well, shall we let you
Okay.
run?
Mick,
Thank you.
thank you so much. I hope you've had a good time. I have enjoyed the last hour and 20 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever it is. We've been
A
together
total pleasure.
so much.
A total pleasure. Thank
You're,
you so much.
You're doing a book signing. Do you want to tell everybody
Oh,
you're doing a
yes.
book?
Dark
Yeah,
Delicacy
if you're in
and
if you're in the LA area, my biography, which is called Master of Horror by Abby Bernstein, comes out on Friday the 13th of August, appropriately enough. And The 21st of August, we will be at Dark Delicacies in Burbank, pretty much the only store of its kind in the country that is mostly horror movies, horror books, horror paraphernalia, toys, clothing, all that. It's a great store, and it's a tourist destination if you're a genre fan.
Sure.
But I will be there with Abby and a bunch of the guests who were interviewed for the book. People with whom I've worked over the years are going to show up. A lot of surprise guests will be there. So, yeah.
Be amazing.
It should be a big day.
You're also going to be at Son of Monster Palooza and the Marriott in Burbank.
Yeah.
And we will be there with you.
Yay, that will be wonderful. That'll be in October, and we'll have a bunch of books to sign there as well, or anything you want. And I'm always happy to do that.
And I think we've got the details of all your social media.
Great.
Your podcast. You will be able to see that when they come back to this episode.
And book available at all the usual places.
Well, maybe not all, but certainly Amazon. The biography, Dark Delicacies does mail order, and I will sign copies for them.
Okay.
The publisher doesn't have autographed copies, but Dark Del will at no additional charge.
Cool.
I saw an actor once who shall remain nameless, who wrote a book and did the round of the conventions in that year. And here was the trick. You had to buy a copy of the book to get to the table.
I know who you're talking about.
Even if you were going to get a signed 10 by 8, buy a copy of the book. New York Times bestseller, Mick Garris. Just saying.
Well, I've never charged for an autograph in my life, and I never will.
Wow.
I'm a behind the scenes guy, so that's a totally different situation. You know, I understand actors. That's a totally different world. But I just, for me, I've never charged, and I just don't want to do that.
Wow. You're
a stand-up guy.
I feel grumpy.
Just not a stand-up comedian. Yeah. Anyway. Well, thank you guys. This was a total pleasure, and great to catch up with you, Doug, for the first time in many years.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I can't thank you enough for agreeing to come on. It's been a blast. Thank you so much.
Totally great. Take care.
Take care. We'll see you in
See you then.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mick.
And we're not going anywhere.
Nope. Now I'm trying to do this transition.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't going to work.
Oh, David. At the beginning of your career.
Yes.
I knew that was going to be an issue. Stand by.
But let's do a giveaway.
Yeah, the screen's all wonky, so you can see each other on the screen. I'm just trying to frame it right for everybody.
Right. How's everybody in chat? Everybody still in chat?
I don't see what's going on in the chat.
Doug does free photos with autographs. Cool. Yes, you do.
I do what? Free
yes,
photos,
I do.
Yeah. Yes, I feel very grubby after hearing Mick say charges for an autograph, and never will.
Well, that's very rare.
But I don't charge for table photos.
No, one of the few.
Never have, never will. Well, the only other person I knew who didn't do that was Sid Haig.
Bill might not. Still,
I think he does. I think Bill does
free
thing
with...
where if you're buying an autograph, it's to stop. I call them the tourists, people who just want a photograph, and of course I make life difficult for myself because I advertise the fact that I charge for. Oh, that's cool. I'll get the thing that doesn't cost.
But that's okay. It's
but
I
that's fine.
I don't think it gets abused.
No,
people are really.
And you know, a lot of the time people say, "Really, charge?" Or let me buy a picture then.
People are
and
really
often people
appreciative.
come and they get the autograph, table picture with me, which is just sit down next to me, and I go. These days we go.
It's truly no effort.
Like that, we pretend to be smiling. It's gone. But they come to, we do professional photo ops with a professional photographer and a green screen, put up an interesting backdrop. And a lot of the time people come for autographs, table photograph, and then I photo op.
You know when all that
It all
started,
goes
though?
around.
You know when all that started?
Which bit?
The charging to take a picture with your...
baseball.
No,
No.
that's the Walking Dead. All the Walking Dead
Oh.
manager. All
Right.
that.
And then there was that one actress who decided to charge just to come to the table and say hello to her.
She called it a meet and greet.
Meet and greet. Yeah.
$10. She
and
charged $10 just to approach her table.
Somebody took a picture of her price list. 10 by 8s, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Meet and greet. $10. And it went fairly viral online.
Never saw her again.
Disappeared very
Well, she
quickly.
was just a bitch.
But again, it kind of goes back to what Mick was saying in a way, because that's as likely as not, that's managers whispering in her ear.
That's just pure greed.
You're giving up your time, so why shouldn't you charge for it? And clearly there is an argument, but it's so counter to the whole spirit of everything that conventions should be about, I think.
I mean, God knows we could be raking it in pictures.
Would be, yeah. I mean, people charge like $25 for it.
Oh, they charge a lot more. $50-$60 to take a picture with your
phone
camera. Doesn't seem quite right. Not that we couldn't use the money, but
well, we do okay.
Yeah.
How about a giveaway? Anybody want to do a giveaway?
Yeah, let's do a giveaway.
Let's do one of these.
What are we doing? What do you have there?
One of the Hellraiser double-sided, like a promo.
Yeah.
For the boom. God, if I open this, I'm never gonna close it. So this is a promo poster. So you got that.
Square it round.
And we got a back shot.
And it's got the little imprint of... Whose artwork is that, do we know? Got the John Bolton Pinhead on the other side.
Got that.
That's promo for the comics, right?
Yeah, for the Boom.
Yeah.
Boom series.
That's a good one. I like that. That's a good
Yeah.
poster. Yeah, five gifted subs to win that one here, chat. It will be personalized.
So it does have crease marks on it,
Yeah.
but of course,
But it's
course,
nice.
again.
It's in good shape.
comes signed personally to you. What do you think, Archangel?
I like it. I think it looks really good.
Okay.
Wife? Oh, I don't.
Yeah, that's the simple one. We're doing 5 subs to win that one here.
Okay.
So the next person to give 5 gifted subs will win that poster. It will be personalized to your liking.
Everybody on the chat, have a good time with Mick.
So?
He's a lovely, lovely guy.
Absolutely.
I still think he's confusing me with somebody.
I know you're gonna remember. We should ask him what show. Can you imagine? You'll remember. Something will jog your memory.
I'll ask Clive, and Clive will say no. I'm thinking if it was around that time, it might have been someone. That's a possibility. Neil was
How would he mistake
hanging
you for
around
Neil
Clive
Gaiman?
time. It might have been Ollie Parker or
Here's a
someone
question.
like that. Or
How
any
are
old
you, Doug
buddy.
Bradley?
How am I? How am I, Doug Bradley? I was born this way. I didn't have any say in the matter. I just am Doug Bradley. I'm very well. And if you're alluding to my
Your
beginning
canker?
of last year, my canker of the
Canker
anal
of your
canal, seems to be, if you'll pardon the expression, behind me.
Oh, okay. Good job.
I should have charged 10 subs.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, I've had 6-month follow-up, 1-year follow-up. Everything is fine. Touch wood.
People keep
but you
saying,
never know until you know. I'll have another round of tests in another year's.
People keep commenting. I always see people commenting on your social media. I'm glad you're feeling better. But you never felt bad.
I didn't. No,
That's
I
the
mean,
thing.
I had a change of bowel habits.
Oh, we got our winner.
We do?
Yes.
Good job.
This is an easy one. I can pronounce that, so I feel good.
Changes of bowel
Retro
habits.
Jimbo Zero.
Okay.
Retro Jimbo Zero. Okay. Well done, Retro Jimbo Zero. You are now my favourite tongue twister.
So your change of bowel
Retro Jumbo
habits.
Zero. Well, yes. Otherwise, I had no reason to suppose there was anything wrong.
Feel sick?
Nope.
You didn't look sick?
Nope. Just felt,
You didn't act sick?
that's not right. So I went to the doctor and said, this isn't right. And he said, when did you have your last colonoscopy? I was 65 at this point, and I said, I've never had one. Come back down off the ceiling. He said, I think we should put that right. So I got booked in for a colonoscopy, still thinking, I might have colitis, bowel syndrome or something like that. So it was a bit of shock when the gastroenterologist came in and informed me a monster lurking up my ass.
A large tumor.
Apparently, it had been there for way to itself, but fuck her out and had a look at it. Everything was precancerous in stage 1, and importantly, who knows why these things? Because Christ knows, given it every chance, nothing had metastasized. It hadn't moved elsewhere in the colon. It hadn't moved outside. It hadn't got into the lymph gland.
Listen to this.
So,
Sober Lion says, my wife says that Doug was one of her favorite patients.
oh good God.
Said he was very kind and couldn't. But David, can you see the chat?
Yeah.
Obviously, it should say Pinhead. Why does that get censored?
I see it says Pinhead on my end in the chat.
What?
What? So who is?
I keep noticing that every time I'm reading a comment that.
Yeah, I just double checked even on like my tab I have pulled up in the chat, and it says it perfectly there.
Is who's that who posted that?
Someone named Sober Lions.
Sober Lions. I don't know whether Sober Lions is. How long ago did they say that? Okay, still there. Where?
Oh,
does your wife work at
she was your
Shadyside?
no, she was your dental hygienist.
Oh, hygienist. Oh, at
Dr. S. That's all we'll say.
Dr. S in Mville.
Yes, who's since retired.
Oh,
it's a bummer.
I think it might. I think I might remember who that would be. Okay, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, see, someone else is saying it's censored on my end. It says it was
That's
blocked due to my chat. What the fuck is wrong with Pinhead?
Right. It says used as an insult.
It's like this thing.
Oh, Nick says, hi Nick, by the way, artist, Caesar. Pinhead could be used as an insult in Twitch auto mods. Are you shitting me? They call it a hostile message.
You Pinhead.
What the fuck? Are you kidding me?
That's ridiculous.
That's
ridiculous. I wanted to raise this issue that Steph had mentioned to me, and you guys, David and Josh, had seen it as well, of censorship of horror content on Instagram.
Terrible.
Since it got taken over by Facebook. Steph says
it's really awful. Well, the horror hashtag. If you put hashtag horror, if you go to search hashtags and you type in horror, it'll bring up a, "Are you okay? Do you know that this?" Well, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with it, but it's basically Instagram is concerned for you because you're looking up horror.
For God's sake!
So then
and
I realized that
when you're work and putting it online, it's getting
my engagement is way down, and a lot of sort of underground and horror artists are saying the same, and it's down to censorship, and I've had artwork censored, little tiny and clay intestines getting censored.
No.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
we need to be jumping
It's
up and down
crazy.
and making a noise about this. It's absolutely appalling, seems to me. I don't go near social media. I don't do social media, so I don't know all this, but Steph mentioned it to me a couple of weeks ago, and I was absolutely appalled. Christ knows, with all the crap that is floating around on social media at the moment. And you said you've seen
there's straight up porn. I've seen beheadings. I've seen some shit.
The things these eyes have seen. But they're not blocking
porn, beheading, piles of expired Lunchables. Aptly named drag queen, Melvin
lazily
in a dress.
named.
Lazily drag queen, Melvin in a dress.
This club has everything. Yes. Conveniently located on the Upper East Side of a dumpster. Oh, Stefan, how we miss you.
Yes. No, it's terrible.
But it really bad. It's absolutely disgusting, and I mean it with all the shit that is around on social media, to be censoring.
Yeah, it's bad.
Horror.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too. Even like the engagement on shit Goss say has been going down. Like 8,000 views at a story posted at 11 p.m. and the next day it caps out at 330.
And what the fuck right does some baby with a media studies degree have to sit in judgment on an entire community of people who are making their living out of it really and promoting what they're doing?
Brings your morale down too, because you finish a piece and you think, all right, that's all right, and you post it and hope that some people see it and someone wants to buy it, and then there's not much interaction.
Yeah, no, it's odd.
And I'll realize, God, I wonder if so and so is okay. I haven't seen them post anything for a long time,
and that's because they're being...
And I'll look them up, and there they are. They have been posting, and for some reason I'm not seeing it. It's shadow banning, I guess they call it.
Shadow banning.
Yeah, shadow banning. Not to be confused with shadow dancing. Bee Gees song.
Oh, never confuse things with a Bee Gees song, please.
Let's give more stuff away.
Yeah, let's do the this will be an easy one. We're going to do 5 winners on this. So whoever gifts just one sub is going to get a $10 Strange and Unusual gift card to the Josh Ball's Oddity Store Emporium of Dead Living coffee and whatever other weird stuff he has in there.
Dead Living coffee. I like the idea of Dead Living coffee.
I mean, there's glass eyes, there's coffins, there's 550 funeral home chairs that he made me carry in the sun.
Why don't you have any of those?
He wants them gone, so if anybody wants a chair, now's your time.
Yeah. Josh, bring some to Pittsburgh next week.
Yes, bring chairs to Pittsburgh.
We'll have a few. Is Tom Savini doing well?
As far as I know, we see Tom quite often. We had lunch with him and the missus.
Post-vaccine lunch?
Yeah, and we keep threatening to do it again. And we will have Tom as a guest on here sooner or later. He's
constantly sending me pictures of his finished paint by numbers.
His finished paint by numbers. He is shaming me so much because I've only done one. He does. He gets up at stupid hours. He goes to bed very early. Reads books and then gets up at early o'clock.
Retro Jimbo says, just the other day I was Googling trying to find out if Doug was going to be at any conventions. Perhaps you guys could fill me in.
Sure.
As a matter of fact, next weekend,
Next Friday, a week tomorrow,
13th,
a week tomorrow,
13th, 14th, 15th, Pittsburgh.
we will be at Steel City Con, which is our hometown show. It is, literally takes us not very long at all to drive there, and we get to come home in the evening.
Yes.
And sleep in our own beds, or bed.
I get to sleep in the bed with Josh.
You do? Wow.
Yeah. What a treat.
Did you need to tell me that?
I did. I just felt like it was necessary.
Okay. Well, I know now. I can't get that out of my head. So that is at the Monroeville Convention Center, which is right across the parking lot from the Monroeville Mall, which version? Night of the Living Dawn. Dawn of the Dead was shot. But don't get excited, because it doesn't look anything like it did in the movie. A very, very dull.
And it's where I worked
mall.
for years, and it's a terrible place. Don't go there.
But do come to the convention center across the parking lot from it, because that's a wonderful place. So we will be there, and in fact, Josh and David and Nathan as well.
David, you coming?
Oh yes, Friday and Saturday.
Oh yeah.
And what's happening to Nathan? Is he sleeping on the sofa, or are you making it a threesome? Or?
Only if he wants to. I don't think I can handle those legs. Josh is doing like an Airbnb because Nathan's house wasn't horror enough.
Those are sleek.
So who knows where it's at? He probably just booked it, and I'm just gonna show up and have to drive him around.
So the Horror Hub guys will be there with their own booths.
Nathan in the chat.
Huh? Nathan's joined the chat.
Yeah.
What's he saying?
He said all three of us in the same bed with my legs wrapped around them.
No, stop it. This is why Instagram gets censored.
Yes.
I want to bring Nathan just like a week's worth of supply of rice cakes and peanut butter.
Okay.
So nasty. But Robert will be there.
Anglin will be there. Yes. Meatloaf will be there, which Steph's
very excited.
She's very disappointed because SpongeBob SquarePants has cancelled.
He has a name. It's Tom Kenny.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, very upset. Very upset.
But I will be there. Yes, Robert Anglin will be there. There's a Jason or two.
There's a Jason.
Tom Morga.
Yes.
And
one dropped
and a
out.
Michael. Do you remember which Michael?
I don't. Don't ask me these things.
Michael. Jason. And they're doing
Jason.
They're doing a combination picture, I think. Freddie, Jason, Michael.
Yeah. Who else is going to be there?
I'm not doing photo ops at that show. Because I'm wearing a mask.
Yes. Yeah.
I never stopped wearing a mask. I certainly won't be at the moment. So then in September, we're at Monster Mania
in
Hunt Valley. Do we remember the dates offhand, or do I need to consult my calendar?
That is August. No, sorry, that's not August. September 23rd. No, 24th, 25th, and 26th. September
24th, 25th, 26th. So that's at Hunt Valley, Maryland, Monster Mania. And then in October, as discussed with Mick,
8th, 9th, and 10th, Son of Monsterpalooza.
Son of Monsterpalooza. That's in the Marriott Hotel in Burbank. That's right across the road from the Bob Hope Airport. And then at the end of October, October 23rd, 24th, and 25th, we are at Spooky Empire in Orlando,
if the world doesn't
Florida. But Florida is going to hell in the handbasket right now, even more so than usual.
When isn't it?
So who knows? November, maybe Days of the Dead in Chicago. In the new year, February.
We got to watch. We haven't signed.
We haven't. So that's not. That one's not confirmed.
Don't know yet. We have not signed, so
the
we
other
cannot.
the other Florida.
We cannot
No.
speak
Okay.
of it.
Okay. I won't tell you anything else.
People are talking about Garth Brooks. in the
Garth
chat.
Brooks. Wow. Wow.
Tom Segura fans.
Wow.
Where are the bodies, Garth?
I really like that.
I really.
I like that. See, that's what I want this show to be. I wasn't sure about doing it, and then David and Josh explained to me
So a lot
that
of people
it
aren't
could
going to know what
be-
you're talking about.
It could be like a conversation,
I like that.
and I really like that.
David, have you seen that? Have
No.
you seen Garth Brooks' first Facebook video?
No, I
From
haven't.
Oh, you have to
my,
Google
my.
it. His first Facebook post, and then I watched with rapt attention The Road I'm On, the documentary. Have we got a home invasion going on, or
There's someone upstairs.
Is that-
Yes.
oh, okay, right.
I think we need to give away these last 2 gift cards.
Okay.
We have 2 gift cards left. You just have to
Happy
donate
birthday,
1 sub to
Bruce.
the stream. That's it. 1 sub, gift card to Strange and Unusual. And here's my plug. I've been working on this.
Okay.
Where you can find oddities, coffee, dead things, jewelry, Josh balls, and his wonderful crew.
Lovely.
We were I was texting Nathan, and we were complimenting how everybody has a soothing voice. Steph has a very soothing on-air voice. Doug, Mick,
That's a lot.
and then meanwhile I sound like a turtle that's like dehydrated with a lip.
Dehydrated turtle.
dehydrated turtle.
No, I
They're
hate
not-
my
they're
voice.
not the wettest
Hate
of
it, hate it,
creatures.
hate it.
Is this a polite way to send everybody to sleep?
Yeah.
With our soothing voices.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Now everything I'm
Cope
doing
and Coors
here-
right there. There we go. Cope and
Welcome.
Coors with a sub. Welcome back. You donated like 900 subs the last stream. It seemed like.
I really like that.
Everybody, when we're done tonight, go find Garth Brooks' Facebook video. His first video, his entry in Facebook. It's quite
great.
terrifying,
It's
and
great.
I'm convinced he's a serial killer. And there's a podcast called Your Mom's House.
Yes.
It's they are obsessed
Obsessed with
with
him.
Garth Brooks, and if you go to Garth Brooks' social media,
Get out, Trisha. Run away.
you will see references.
Where are the bodies
Yeah,
gone?
where the families want Garth. Where are the bodies?
Get out while you can, Trish.
Yeah, he's not right. Not at all.
No.
Okay. So did we give that card away, David?
Yeah, Cope and Coors won, so we're at 4 out of the 5. And I just saw Cope's total. Oh wait, Brock Smith. There we go. So all 5 gift cards are accounted for.
Okay.
Thank you, Brock Smith. Appreciate that. Cope has donated 36 subs to the stream.
Jeez.
That's,
Thank you very much.
that's very generous.
Wonderful.
Next
you,
up,
sir.
we are going to give away Nathan's car for
Sweet.
666 subs.
I've seen that car. It's nice.
Or we should give away just something at Josh's and just have him show up at Strange and Unusual and say, "Hey, here's you have to give me your hat."
One of his
Yeah.
dogs.
Well, let's give Strange and Unusual away too.
Yeah. 2 hot dogs from Sheets. You get the entire business. And Josh is included.
Burger King
He'd
chicken
probably
sandwich.
be happy.
Yeah, Burger King chicken sandwich.
Hey, if you can send me a PlayStation 5, I'll give you Doug's entire supply of 8x10s.
You will? Okay.
How about the Nightbreed poster?
Yeah, let's do the Nightbreed poster. That's that's a good one. That's we're gonna show it here on stream for you lovely people in the chat.
I'm gonna hold it
It's
up
another
too, just so they can
folded
see.
one.
This is gonna be 5 subs to win this personalized Nightbreed poster. Dun dun dun. I've never seen teamwork like that. Teamwork makes the
Yeah.
dream work.
I'm trying to be as gentle as we can. So
Look at that. Love it.
nice.
5 subs right there. That's, to me, that's worth 100. But we're doing it for 5.
I like your way of doing business.
It's you get one poster for 5 subs or 2 for 1,000. That's a deal you're not going to find at any other Twitch stream.
No. And that's not all.
But wait, there's more.
We are also going to do a Horror Hub t-shirt. It may be the one off Josh's back. That is going to be 3 subs. Only 3. So we have 5 subs for a Nightbreed poster, and then we have 3 subs for a Horror Hub shirt. All right. New Wave Girl wins the Nightbreed poster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, New Wave Girl.
Sounds good. Someone said they just went and looked up the Garth Brooks video.
We weren't wrong, were we?
No,
It's
no.
good. It's very weird.
Yes,
Very weird.
yes.
And this is like how many years after Facebook started?
Oh,
That he's
many.
posting
like,
that?
like 10
Yeah.
years.
Very
So wait,
strange
what
one.
year did he actually like? Is this a recent video?
Just like 2
Yeah,
years
like
ago
just a
or
few
something.
years ago. He made a video to announce that he, like he
It's like a big
discovered this
fucking deal.
this
Garth
thing
Brooks
called
is on Facebook, everybody.
I'm down with the kids,
Yeah.
man. I'm on Facebook.
Hello, fellow kids.
Yeah,
I-
peculiar.
I
I
just
can
think of
make
calling
that
him
happen.
Goth Brooks. That's it.
And do track down the documentary, The Road I'm On. That's bizarre too.
It's very uncomfortable. He makes
It
me
is.
uncomfortable.
Because everybody
Yeah.
comes on saying, Garth is wonderful. Oh, he's so wonderful. What a wonderful person. He's so wonderful.
Yeah. No, he ruined country music.
And remember, there's that moment in the interview where
Which one?
somebody
Oh,
comes
someone
into
comes
the
in
bar
the door.
and he's doing his to camera piece in his sincere Garth Brooks voice. Somebody slams the door and he gets really pissy. Who is that? Who's slamming the door? What?
Yeah, the serial killer comes out.
Let's do that again.
Mm,
Control
Yeah.
freak.
yeah. No, I still have not found a
His
PS5.
ex-wife is on. Garth
Jeez.
is
Whoever
wonderful.
asked me that.
I love him so much.
That's gonna be my mission. We're gonna have. I'm gonna have
to
Garth
have
on the
that-
stream, and I'll interview him. So question 1: what the hell were you thinking with that Facebook video?
Right now.
I really
How about a
like
question?
that.
How about a question?
Go ahead.
If you could be any other iconic horror character,
Oh God.
which would you love to portray?
I like that question.
I like that.
I like that.
I really like that. Oh God. Wow. That's tricky. Probably. I mean, this is kind of sacrilegious because I hold the original performance in such high regard, and that's part of the problem in answering the question because everybody who I think about who's been there as has owned it in their own way. Probably Frankenstein's monster, because he is the original sympathetic monster. Karloff wrote the rule book really on sympathetic monsters. They're always the most interesting. Not that I would for a heartbeat think I could do any of it better than he did, because I really don't. But there's a lot about the nature of the character that I think is intriguing, and draws you in as it pushes you out as well. I think I'd probably go there.
I'll accept that.
Okay.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Mr. Freeze. Someone said, imagine Doug playing Mr. Freeze for a moment. Hey, make sure you guys bring one of those shirts for me.
Mr. Freeze was good in Gotham.
Pittsburgh.
I liked
Oh, we can do that.
Big fan of Gotham. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that Black Magic one is real cool, take one of those. Yes. Garth, please, the location of my children.
Retro Jimbo said, Garth, the families need closure.
Yeah. Seriously, if you go to like his Instagram or Facebook, you'll see like
People
hundreds about that. I need to know, where are my family? The families need closure. Where are the bodies? Yeah, it's great.
And do find the episode of Your Mama's House.
Your mom's house, yeah.
Your Mom's
well, they
House.
talk about them all. They're obsessed.
It's hilarious. I'm merciless on him. Absolutely merciless.
No, we don't have a name for the nun yet.
No.
Yeah, we gotta work on that.
Sister Nancy was
No.
suggested last week.
Yeah, the nun needs a segment as well.
And I think we need to lower Biscuit down a bit so people can see more of Biscuit. Biscuit is our pet cow.
Does anybody have a question for the nun?
I have a question that's completely non-related.
Oh.
In my shopping experiences today,
Oh.
I've expressed my displeasure with my shopping. I don't like to
As you frequently do.
I don't like to go out in public much. I had to shop today, and I went in and out of about 4, 5, 6 stores and made purchases. At every single register, they asked me, phone number? And I mean, I've just... Your first instinct is to spit it out and just, give a perfect stranger your phone number. And today I decided not to do that anymore. And you would have thought I killed somebody's dog when I said I wasn't giving out my phone number. My first answer was, I'm not signed up to any of your rewards programs. And, that they didn't get the picture from that. And
Yeah, that went right over their head.
Yeah. Oh, well, you can just give it to me now. I said, well, that's okay. I get enough spam text, and we don't use it for that. And they just kept pushing and pushing, and I finally said, it's cool. I don't want to do that. I don't do that. And suddenly I'm a weirdo because I didn't want to give out. And then I went and bought something at the shoe store, and it's, phone number, address.
Jeez.
And I didn't
for
give
a
it
pair
out
of
again.
shoes.
Yeah, I said that's an
crazy.
awful lot for shoes. I'm buying a pair of shoes,
I've
So what's a good answer?
oh.
That would
Is that a question to me or
Yeah,
a question to
you,
the chat?
To the chat. What would
Right.
shut someone down very quickly?
That's none of your
politely?
goddamn business.
Besides something a little more clever.
I think you just. I mean, I'd never. It's not a thing
give
in
him
the
Doug's
UK.
number.
It's not. It's not. It's not a.
Give him somebody's.
Give him Garth Brooks' number.
Well, that's the answer. That's the answer.
Give him.
Give him like
Make up a phone
the prayer.
number.
The prayer.
See if they spot it.
Oh, that's
prayer line,
that's a
Christian?
good one. Ask for their phone number.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Oh.
Barely know
There you
but
go.
What's your number?
Or just give Josh's.
Or
412-555.
next time someone asks my number, I'm sorry, I'm married. That would be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me last week.
You asked me last week. Ask for someone says 8675309.
I wonder
Jenny.
how many people would catch on to that.
Nobody under the age of 40 would. I don't think. Not many. Tell them your number is 666.
That's actually in my phone number.
6666.
It's so weird and invasive.
It is
Very
very peculiar. As I
bothered
say,
by
it doesn't
it.
happen in the UK, and I was completely flummoxed by it when I encountered it for the first time here, either phone number or zip code. And I know it's because they want to track who's buying and the rest of it. And with the zip code, geographical spread of people who are in their store. But it's not my business to do your marketing for
No.
you. I'm in here just to,
Buy
buy
a
something and make
fucking
a
candle.
financial. It's not my place to help you work out what your demographic. Go
Yeah.
fuck yourself.
Yeah. See, I mean, someone says you give out your number and suddenly you're getting YouTube.
Oh,
I mean, that's what I mean. You get like
Driving
5 of
around
those.
your file. Hi, it's Samantha. Your file just came across my desk.
Day.
I want to know who's come across your desk.
Not zip code, but I wouldn't.
Oh, there.
Right now.
Darth Baber.
Darth Baber.
3 subs to the stream, so you just win a Horror Hub t-shirt.
Congratulations.
What else do we have left?
How many of the Hellraiser posters did we do? Just one?
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
one.
we have
I
another
called
of
it
those.
double-sided hell.
Double-sided hell.
All right.
There are 2 sides.
We have another one of those.
Do another comic book.
Yeah. Let's another
That's a
comic book.
Thing,
Oh, I didn't notice the back of that too. It's pretty
look,
cool.
There's a back
Ooh.
to it. Front and a back. A back
And a front. And this is 10 subs to win the comic book made
Signed?
locally in Pittsburgh. It will be signed. It will be personalized. Doug's hands would have touched said
Well, it
comic
is-
book.
Technically, it is the first
First issue of the Boom.
Boom comic. It's just the cover that's exclusive to Pittsburgh. New Dimension Comics. So
The
it's just
insides
the
is
cover.
Same
It's just
as
a very-
same as it ever was.
Look at that.
So
We
There it
should.
is.
What page was that? Let's read a page. I don't know.
for 20 subs, I'll read the entire comic. Boys and girls, it's your bedtime story.
That's what I wanted to talk about doing on here. Is having you read something selected by.
Yeah, we talked about this, so throw that out to the chat, the chatters. I can't really do stories because there are very few stories that are very, very short, so they take too long. How about poems?
That would be good, but I think I was thinking of silly
Things. We
like
can
the
do
time
that as well.
instructions
instructions
to
on a-
Summer's Eve to douche in front of an audience and got a standing ovation afterwards.
Well, that was Mr. Sketchy, wasn't it?
Dr. Sketchy,
Dr.
yeah.
Sketchy.
And he sat on stage, read the instructions to a Summer's Eve.
Did I
douche.
not also at a Dr. Sketchy while people were drawing move amongst them reading the lyrics to sitcom songs?
Possibly.
I think.
I think I desperately want you to do the Golden Girls.
Okay,
So
just
yeah.
for you, baby. Well, so there's 2 things if people on the chat think that's a good idea.
The side effects may include. the side effects list
Oh,
on
yes.
a prescription.
If you stop breathing,
May
don't
cause
take
death.
this. May cause death. Yes.
Third arm.
If both your eyes fall out, stop taking this at once. So either a favorite poem or something silly that you found
Yeah.
that it's easy for me to get a hold of too. And
But I think we should think about rectal
Read.
burning, rectal itching, rectal leakage.
I am so fed up. I don't want this to sound sexist or misogynist in any way.
But it will.
But I'm really fed up of commercials for leakage underpants that involve close-ups of
Easy now.
women's arses.
It's men too. They get
they're stroking a hand over their
Down their
over their
diapers.
buttock in their ridged diaper
yeah.
over their buttock in a sexy kind of way.
You don't want to see that one.
While at the same time you're being told this is, it's a kind of sexy image, while at the same time you have an image of them peeing themselves in their diapers. It's very curious, and practical demonstrations of the absorptive powers of
pads.
feminine hygiene.
like dump a thing of.
Appropriately coloured as well.
But it's always
kind
blue though.
It is a little
It's just-
off-putting when you sat down with your plate of tomato sauce and
I like the poop in a box.
poop in the box. Collar guard.
Yes. Well, this is probably a
Little
good place
box.
to wrap it up. I think we're.
Do you think?
I
So,
think so.
so we'll probably do another.
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
Yes, Doug is on Cameo. Doug ever thought Cameo?
been
We are
on
there.
Cameo for a while, busily cameoing away.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Phil on
Yes.
Cameo. I get lots of requests to help people
Pep
who've
talks.
lost their jobs and people who are feeling down and
Yeah, you're good at it though.
facing
Very naturally.
transgender surgery. No, like I know, but
But you're good at it. You're
Well,
naturally
I
good
seem
at it.
well. You just
people
connect with
seem
people.
Totally.
Whatever it is that's happening,
Yes.
just connect with people. So yes, I've been on do quite a lot of when's Screamio happening?
Screamio is happening soon. Let's put a very soon on that. I know
Okay.
it's about
Coming soon.
95% there.
Okay,
And that's Horror Hub's version of Cameo, which is just going to be
horror only.
horror
yeah.
peeps.
So it's
So-
kind of cameo for horror people on Horror Hub.
Yes, we are talking
Coming
to
soon.
Joe Bob. Joe Bob is
Joe Bob said
We-
yes.
have a date in the works.
Are we allowed to trail
No.
other people?
No.
No.
Do that.
All right,
Um,
last
stop it.
last
Stop
chance
it.
too. Last chance, 10 subs for a signed, personalized, autographed, handwritten comic book. The comic
Okay.
book's not handwritten, but the autograph will be handwritten.
Hurry up and write a comic book.
So we'll do another open forum session in a couple of weeks probably. Q&A from the chat like we did last week. So that would be a time, give you time to think about favorite poems or favorite silly things me to read. Are we doing that for subs or out of the goodness of my Archangel D?
I mean, we could do a mix. How about a mix?
Both? Yeah.
The sillier,
The
the more
sillier-
expensive.
The sillier, more subs. Yes, definitely. No, the comic books will not be available at Steel City. We only have
No, we have a small
Few of
number
them.
of. It's limited to the amount of
Yeah.
stuff we can throw
yeah,
around anyway.
those are 2011.
At Steel City will be 10 by 8s, 11 by 17 pictures, t-shirts, spine chillers, CDs, my book.
That's about it. And
That
our
is-
and
that
our
is it.
beautiful smiling faces, which no one will see. Mask.
Our mask faces. A lot of people were wearing masks. We will be.
Yeah.
Please do if you're coming.
Well,
So, anything else?
yeah. Any Doug's final
No,
thoughts?
Final thoughts. with
My
Doug
final
Bradley.
thoughts?
Yeah, send us home. Let's give our little outro here. We should do Doug's words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom.
Mm.
Oh God, I don't have any words.
Never
Mm.
trust a fart.
Never trust. Oh, that's advice for three people. For three.
Three pieces of advice.
God, I'm getting tired.
Tired, need to
It's,
go to bed.
it's advice for many people, but it's specifically advice for
For men.
old people, old men.
Old
Yes,
men.
yes, very specifically for old men. Number one is never pass a toilet. Number two is never waste a hard on. And number three is never trust a fart.
I might get that tattooed on me.
And with that,
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you good night and Godspeed, peace and pain. And as the great DJ John Peel used to always say when he wrapped up, good night and good riddance.
that is it. We will see you all next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
Bye.